Vitna's Escape, excerpt from Dragon's Heir. I've got to get out of here while I can, Vitna thought. It's only a matter of time before they figure out what I'm doing. That stupid sergeant didn't make things any easier, she bristled. That disgusting saliva-drinking ritual. Ugh, they'll never find the traces of venom in him or in my normal secretions, but they'll suspect, and I just can't afford that. She occupied an old solitary confinement cell. The overhead light was very bright in this small space. The fortified steel door was electronically controlled from the outside only. A small square opening was enclosed by steel bars. The legacy of Alcatraz haunted the recent renovation. The new guards were like living nightmares, monstrously huge and grotesque. They rivaled Chalkies in size, but their build was bulkier. There was something else unnatural about them too, but Vitna had no time to think about it. She had to concentrate. One of the beasts jammed its snout in between the bars in the small opening in the door and bared its teeth. Some Jing used the smile for a more familiar sentiment. The portal is obviously designed for communication with prisoners, she surmised. It effectively prevents harassment of visitors from the occupant. Glad it works both ways. She wove her fortified personal field in and out of the maze of computer circuitry that made the new Alcatraz facility manageable. She smiled as she overcame one system after another. She needed no modems or accessories to conquer cyberspace. She just needed to get past those infernal security measures. She'd been at it for hours now. Music played gently in the background. Max Hollingsworth intended for it to soothe the strange animals left to guard her. Bears, Vitna realized. I knew I'd seen references to such creatures. That size can't be natural. Growth enhancers of some kind must have been employed, and all that metal hardware they're wearing doesn't look very friendly. Just then, a number of familiar faces entered the room. Hollingsworth, Stahl, Mendez, and Matthews, led by a grinning Colonel Doyle. It looks like your assessment of your friend's talents was accurate. He's taken over the central government and imposed a loose version of martial law. We underestimated him. You underestimated him, Vitna said, gyrating rhythmically to the music. You were the only independent human who knew anything about him. I assume you're plotting some kind of countermeasures? I won't underestimate this Jing again, she promised herself. Nothing you can do about that, Doyle said. I don't know what happened to my man McCrae, and I don't care. What I do care about is that you remain safe and secure in my custody. Some of your friend's orders are actually working to my benefit. I've been able to justify the restoration of Alcatraz Island under the guise of preparing a short-term, high-security detention facility. Everyone knows that California is full of radical dissidents. That little stereotype also gave me a free hand to have Air Force personnel and equipment reassigned to me for security purposes. Works out nicely. Even these little pets were easy acquisitions under the TUR mandate. I like them, Doyle said, pointing to the bears. There were 2 of them in the room. They follow orders without question, and I never have to worry about security breaches. Kodiak bears are naturally the largest land carnivores on the planet, Doyle continued. Stahl, Mendez, and Hollingsworth developed them for use in battle. A judicious use of growth hormone at the right stage of development increased their size by over 30%. They're trained to use an array of surveillance and telemetry equipment in conjunction with an impressive arsenal of heavy weapons no 3 men could hope to carry and operate. Not one elite soldier in the world stands a chance against one of these teddy bears in hand-to-hand or even knife-to-hand combat. I've got a dozen of them ready to go. It'll be interesting to see them go up against your Sowari. It'd even make a cool video game. Bruce Stahl stepped up behind Doyle and said, We used a similar process to produce Akita dogs the size of ponies. The 2 species work very effectively as a team, Doyle said, patting the animal's snow-white coat. They're the ultimate combination of speed, strength, ferocity, and endurance, coupled with expendability. Doyle fanged a lupine smile. We can always breed more. Stahl worked on an electronic control device that seemed to direct the bear's behavior. If I can get into that control algorithm, I could make this exit short and simple, and cripple their command chain in the process. She continued her interface with the security system, expanding her efforts to include the control mechanism for the Kodiaks. We've learned a lot from you, Vitna. I intend to learn much more, Doyle said. He grinned that horrible grin he often used before doing the unthinkable. You like music, I see. I like to dance, Vitna smiled prettily. I told you that before. I'm glad you're happy. You're going to be my trump card. If worse comes to worse, I can use you as a bargaining chip with Tur. No, you can't, Vitna quipped. Even if he discovers I'm alive, he'd never negotiate my release. As far as he's concerned, I'm a casualty of war. My final duty to him is to do as much damage to the enemy as possible with what remains of my life. Almost there. Got it. Vitna allowed herself a moment of internal celebration at having gained control of the entire system. But there was still a slight glitch. Why can't I activate the weapons system? Nuck! There's an activation override switch. Exerting her will to push stall bore no fruit. Oh, it operates manually. Damn that inhibition field. This will be tricky, but I think... Vitna, tell me something. I know why I'm smiling. Everything's going my way, Doyle said. I have a little trouble understanding the reason you're smiling, though. She stopped dancing. I'm smiling because I know something you don't know, she purred. Go ahead. Jump, Doyle. The colonel motioned for the bears to come closer to the cell door, their guard up. He hesitated. Why is he so damned cautious? She fretted. Well, it looks like he needs another little nudge. The lock to the cell door clanked, and the door suddenly swung open. The bears growled a warning, and then fell silent. Instinctively, Bruce Stahl flipped on the weapons system activation switch. Vitna smiled broadly. She turned a bear toward the shaking Bruce Stahl via the remote communicator in the beast's middle ear. The machine guns blazed to life, cutting Stahl's own short. The bullets destroyed the control box. Humans scattered. She activated another bear. The two heavy machine guns crisscrossed the small room with 300 rounds. She saw Doyle remove his sidearm from its holster and tip over a heavy steel table for cover. Hollingsworth and Mendez also made it. A wounded Hoyt Matthews was dragged to safety, bleeding profusely. Stahl's body looked like a mound of ground beef. An armed Colonel Doyle still blocked Vitna from the exit. He fired futilely at the bears. She commanded the bears to aim their machine guns at the lights and fire. When they stopped sparkling, the windowless room turned pitch black. Now or never. Perfectly at ease in utter darkness, Vitna smoothly negotiated the fallen bodies and debris in the room and leapt silently over the table. She evaded Doyle's blind aim effortlessly. Vitna commanded the bears to face one another before making them fire their weapons again. She opened the outer door and slipped out before the humans had a chance to turn around and adjust to the bright light from the hall. By the time Doyle recognized that the sliver of light heralded no reinforcements, Vitna was gone. The door slammed shut behind her and locked electronically. I'm not free and clear yet, she reminded herself, not allowing the joy of the maneuver to cloud her thinking. I think I can create holographic illusions in the surveillance network, minimize use of blending, save some strength, I hope. Once I'm out, I'll crash the whole system. By the time they sort everything out, I'll be miles away. She made her way through the complex, evading confused soldiers and staff. She blended sparingly, limiting the integral ruse to evade direct encounters with armed men. The security center was near the main exit. She counted 8 guards. All this commotion and they're still here? Then it occurred to her, the alarm. They're confused because there's no alarm. Well, we'll just remedy that situation. At Vitna's command, the klaxon sounded. The guards ran to the magazine, broke out the automatic weapons and grenades, and filed out of the room along their pre-assigned routes. One individual remained, a woman, still monitoring camera displays that showed only static. Vitna crept in behind her, hooked her tail around the woman's lean neck, and slammed her head against the nearest wall. Her skull cracked. Life slipped away before her limp body slid to the floor. Vitna's eyes found the exit from the building. It was less than 10 feet away. A sweet escape. The door to the lavatory swung open. Hey, Susan, what's going on out here? The big sergeant stopped short, seeing the dead body on the floor. Vitna, caught by surprise and so focused on the freedom nearly within arm's reach, was visible. The man was dark-skinned, with straight hair. The name tag on his khaki jacket read Juarez. Motionless, Vitna locked gazes with the new adversary and measured the threat. Both pair of eyes darted to the sidearm lying on the table between them. With her tail, Vitna flipped it and the table out of reach of the soldier. The man turned back to the intruder and smiled as he reached down into his combat boot. "I don't know what you are, but you're fucking with the wrong guy today," he warned. He flipped the blade into readiness with the dexterity of one who'd done great harm many times with pleasure. He assumed a combat stance and moved within lunging reach of Vitna as she observed the knife, wide-eyed. After months of captivity, she knew how these soldiers were normally armed. This one was nastier. That weapon's not government issue. A personal weapon of choice? He feigned several passes to the chest and throat, then smiled more broadly at the unarmed Melkies. This one looks like he knows what he's doing, too, she surmised. With a frightened, desperate look, she half extended her finger claws. His attention went to them, and he backed off a foot or so. A distinct clicking sound crisply broke the silence in the room. Juarez looked down at the source. He only caught a glimpse of the sickle-shaped claw on her toe before it blurred into motion. He looked up to see Vitna backing away before he realized she had slit his throat. His last act in life brought desperate hands to his throat to staunch the bleeding. The assault knife dropped between quivering knees to land on the floor with a clink. Juarez never fully appreciated the elegance of her cut. She had cleaved all the way back to the vertebra in one stroke and pulled the razor-sharp claw through the soft flesh. Odd. Vitna watched Juarez until he stopped moving. He was a trained soldier. Why would he deliberately draw attention to his deadliest weapon instead of away from it? There were no further complications in her escape. She breached the final barrier to the outside world. The February air smelled cool and sweet in her nostrils. Ruffling her down upon contact with the frigid San Francisco Bay water, Vitna swam with alacrity to the shore and climbed toward the tree line. From her new vantage in the woods, she looked back at the island, still visible in the moonlight. She breathed in the night and exclaimed, "Free!"